A very warm welcome to everybody who has joined us on time. Thank you so much. So, today we're going to have a very interesting session with Dr. Justin Paul. Um, so, let's just give a few more minutes for people to join in. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So this is Deborah Rise Movement. On behalf of Deborah Rise Movement, I'm very happy to welcome each and every one of you. Okay, so if you are willing, please switch on your camera so we can see you. And please do mute your mics so that when the speaker speaks, we can all hear clearly. Okay, so Deborah Rise Movement, as you must have seen in the video, was started last year in 2020 in response to the COVID situation. It was started by Dr. Lata Christie and a few other like-minded women who came together to, to pray for the situations that we were in, and out of this Deborah Rise movement was birthed many connects. So one of the connect is Lifeline Connect, through which we have sessions every Friday between 7 to 8 p.m., where we have renowned speakers in their experts in their field to come and address questions to address questions that matter to us, existential questions, questions related to health and lifestyle, and questions related to, is there a god, what is the purpose of life, and so on and so forth. So today we have one such important question to answer: how to guard your heart. The Bible tells us, guard your heart with all diligence. Now, how do we do that physically? How do we do that spiritually and psychologically, emotionally? So I believe today Dr. Justin Paul is here to address that amongst us. Also, I would like to introduce to you various other connect platforms that we have. We have the social connect platform, through which we reach out to people who are in need. So during the COVID situation, when the COVID situation was at its peak in India, we had this COVID care project. So through the COVID care project, over 200 families benefited monetarily. We were able to give them medicines, reach out to people with love and grace, so that they would know that there are people to care for them during this difficult time. Then we have another connect whereby we have counselors, trained counselors available to reach out to people who need counseling. So people who need counseling call us, and then we will call them back to guide them, talk to them, share with them what they can do in this situation for themselves, and guide them to appropriate resources. So moving forward, right, the Social Connect project is going to take many different forms. So we would like to take it forward in the form of supporting students who have educational needs, like providing scholarships, also employment opportunities for people who have lost their job. So through this Deborah Rise movement, we have various platforms to reach various groups of people. All right. So today we have amongst us Dr. Justin Paul, who's a cardiologist. He is well known in his field, and he is the professor of cardiology in Madras Medical College. He is also the Tamil Nadu State Coordinator for Heart Attack Program, as well as the National Health Mission. He has published over more than 100 research articles, and he's a member of the Board of Studies for Super Specialty Courses of Dr. MGR Medical University. He has been trained in the apologetics and evangelism through Haggai Institute, RZM, and in Chennai. Okay, so today Dr. Justin Paul is here to address on how to guard our heart with all diligence. Okay, I hope this session will be a blessing and informative to all of us. So do listen carefully and put up your questions in the chat box, so we would be able to address all the questions at the end of the session today. So over to Dr. Justin Paul today.
A very good evening, DRM members. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the nice words of introduction. I'm really glad to know that wonderful works the DRM is doing during the COVID season. I'm glad to know about the birth of DRM. Now, the topic that was assigned to me was guard your heart with all diligence. So I asked what exactly is the heart that you talk about. So I was told that, you are a cardiologist, you talk about physical heart. So I said, okay, fine, okay, fine, that's fine. So we'll discuss about the importance of physical heart as well as spiritual heart. When Bible and the Proverbs talks about guard your heart with all diligence, all vigilance. எல்லா காவலோடும் உன் இருதயத்தை காத்துக்கொள். This is in Tamil. So with all care, take care of your heart. So what exactly is meant here is you can look at a chicken and how a mother hen protects it. Do you think you can go and catch a chicken with the mother hen nearby? It will just come around. So basically, it is going to protect the chicken at any cost. Nobody can even, no evil can come near the chicken at any point of time. So with that kind of diligence, the Bible asks us to guard our heart with all the diligence. Now, when Bible talks about it, we actually understand that Bible talks about our spiritual heart. So when we say heart, we always, as believers in Christ, we tend to think about our feelings. In fact, the brain is also a part of the heart. When we say, like in Mark 7:22, Jesus talks about from within our heart of men proceeds evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, and on and on. So all these things are coming out from the heart. So the same word Jesus uses back in Matthew. So that is the heart that Bible talks about, but that is not the heart that we talk about, are going to talk about today. We are going to talk about our physical heart. Now, it is very important that our spiritual heart needs to be taken care of well to take care of the physical heart. So when we say that, you do this thing, everyone is going to ask, why should I do that? So I thought I'll just touch upon why we should take care of our physical heart, and then go on to talk about what exactly is the meaning of taking care of our heart with all diligence. So I bring in 4 principles here as to why we need to take care of our heart. The first principle, I call it the ownership and stewardship. Now, Bible in 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, you are not your own, you are bought with a price. So does our heart belong to us? Does our body belong to us? It does not belong to us. So it has been purchased with a price. Then who does it belong to? How do we know whom it belongs to? If you look at the principle in Mark 12, if you remember, people went and asked Jesus, should we pay taxes? So he asked them to show a coin, and asked them whose image is there on the coin. They said, Caesar's image. He said, what belongs to Caesar, give it to Caesar, because it had the image of Caesar. So whose image is on you and me? So we belong to the person's image which is on us. So man and woman were made in the image of God, imago Dei. So we belong to God. So we have no business in doing whatever we want to do with our body, with our heart. Like Frankie said, it's my life. I want to do it my way. It's not so. It's not my life. It is not my body. I cannot do it my way. So I have to do it in God's way. So taking care of your heart and my heart is a spiritual discipline. Just losing a few pounds, wanting to live longer and trying to look nicer. No, that's not why God created our body for. That's not why Jesus died for. So God holds us accountable for what he has given us to use. Jesus talks a lot about stewardship. If you remember the parable of talents, he expects the one who received the talents to make the best use out of it. He just cannot even give it back by burying it under the sand. He wants it to be put to better use. So we need to put our heart, our body to better use. The second part I would like to say is the sanctity and solemnity. Corinthians says, our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So what a great compliment. Do you think of any other greater compliment anyone has paid to us? That God, we are the temple of the living God. If you look at the Old Testament, 50 chapters were assigned how to maintain the tabernacle. So if God is tabernacling in us, how much importance will God expect us to maintain this tabernacle, maintain this heart? See, we all read about vandalizing and demolishing a church in Delhi. What will we see if somebody is vandalizing a church? We'll get so hurt, we'll try our level best to prevent that. But church is not where God resides, it's our body where God resides. So if we are vandalizing or not taking care of our body, how hurting it will be to God. So whatever that the doctor says to you to take care of your heart, it is very important. It's a spiritual discipline. It's a God's command to take care of our body. Many times we don't value our body, but let us remember that the value of anything is the price someone is willing to pay for it. Am I right? Like I can have something in my hand and say that, this phone, somebody wants it. If nobody wants it, it has no value. If somebody says it's a new phone, I'll pay 5,000 for it, its value is 5,000. Somebody says, look like a latest iPhone, I would like to pay 50,000 rupees, then its value is 50,000. So what is the value of the body that I and you have? The life of Jesus Christ. So our value is amazing. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. So we have to understand the sanctity and solemnity. And why is our body given to us? Our body is not meant for sexual immorality, 1 Corinthians 6:13 says. So the purpose is extremely important. It is given in Ephesians 2:10 that we are God's workmanship to do the good works that God has given to us before we were born, before the world was ever created. God thought about you and me and thought about the works that you and me have to do and created us. Now, if we do all these things, mess up and die of a heart attack, then what is going to happen? So it's extremely important that we make sure that we fulfill the purpose of why we are here. So this world was made for the body, for us. God created an anthropocentric world, but he put a theocentric man. We are not created for the world. Only the world was created for us, but we are created for God. We are meant to be in communion with God. So let us understand that man is a trinity, just like God is a trinity. We are a trinity of body, mind, and spirit. Our mind is a trinity of emotions, will, and intellect. So when our body has a disease, say heart has a disease, our emotions, our will, our intellect, our spirit, everything has a role to play in the disease of the heart. We cannot just throw it away and say that I'll take care of the body because the body is me. No, we are not the body. We are the spirit. So all aspects of it are extremely important to take care of the body. And the last fourth principle is sacrifice and worship. God says in Romans 12:1, offer your body as a living sacrifice. So supposing we just eat up and drink up and have a pot-bellied body, not taking care of it well, how are we going to offer it? In Malachi, do you remember God asked, you think you're offering this bad stuff to me? Try offering to your governor and see whether he accepts it. Then why should I accept it? God talks about receiving offering. So if we are the sacrifice and we are the body, then what kind of maintenance that we need to do to take care of this body so that this can be surrendered to God? I just saw a message, no audio. Am I audible?
Yes, doctor.
Oh, okay. There was a direct message to me telling that no audio. I'm sorry. Whoever it was that, I'm glad it is audible. So now we all understand now why we need to take care of our heart. So next I thought I'll just show some images to show what exactly is heart, what exactly is heart disease. When we say heart disease, what are all the possible diseases that we probably could mean? So I'll show, can I share my screen?
Yes, doctor, you can go ahead and share.
Okay, okay, okay. Are you able to see this?
Yes, can see.
Okay. So our heart is the size of our fist. And as you can see, it is placed in the middle of the chest cavity between the right and the left lung. And as you can see, somehow my cursor is not moving. I'm not able to mark. You can see that aorta, the red line stuff. And on the right side image, you can see something is being cut open. And that is called pericardium, or the covering of the heart. So we can have diseases of the pericardium. We can have water collection in it, we can have air collection in it. That is also a type of heart disease. But that is not a disease that we are generally interested in, because we hardly have anything to do in prevention. If we get it, well, doctors will teach us to manage it, but that is not a common one to do. If we cut open and peel the pericardium, what do we see? Now, as you can see inside, you can see the muscle of the heart. That is, inside the fibrous pericardium or covering of the heart, you can see the muscle of the heart. In the muscle of the heart, you can see the right side of the heart and the left side of the heart, and there are two red colored vessels. One is in the shape of inverted J. There is aorta that takes blood to the heart, but all parts of the body. Another one is below it that takes to the lungs. So you can have disease of this aorta, you can have disease of the pulmonary artery, you can have disease of the muscle of the heart, or cardiomyopathy, or heart failure. These are all disease of the muscle of the heart. Next, yeah, you can see the next image here, the heart cut open, the front section. Okay, okay. Now, as you can see on the left side image, I have cut open the covering of the heart, the pericardium. On either side, you can see the lungs are pulled out by some scalpel to forceps to make you see, and below that you can see the diaphragm. The heart is sitting on the muscular diaphragm. That is what is shown here. My cursor is not moving. Okay. And on the right side, you can see the chest wall cavity. Now, if we cut up, you can see the red vessel is aorta and the pulmonary artery. Now, if I cut open, you can see one red vessel going out. There is aorta that takes blood to all parts of the body. There is a valve over there. Yeah, now you can see this. This is called the aortic valve. You can have disease of this aortic valve. You can have disease of this mitral valve. So valve diseases. So when we say valve, this is what we mean, not the blood vessels. So we can have blocks or narrowing of these valves. And we can have disease of these arteries. Now, I'm just closing it again to make you see that. Now, on top of the heart, you can see these red vessels. They are called the coronary arteries. These are taking blood to the muscle of the heart to make the heart beat. We are very interested in this area because this is an area where a lot of patients die because of heart attack. When a block develops in this area, the blood flow goes off and the muscle dies and patient develops a heart attack. The incidence of heart attack in India is about 1 per 1,000 per year. So a population of 8 crores, you can expect almost 80,000 heart attacks, major heart attacks in 1 year in Tamil Nadu. So this is just an estimate. So a lot of things can be done by us. God has given in our hand to prevent such heart attacks from developing. So there is one more block that I want you to understand. This is not the blocks that we just saw. This is the electrical block. This stuff that you see here is the battery that makes the heart beat, and this is the pathway. Now, this from the battery, the power comes here. You can consider this as an electrical line and the other blocks as a plumbing line. Blocks here are called heart blocks. So when it blocks here, we often have to put a pacemaker. This is a different type of block compared to this block in this blood vessel of the heart, where we call it, technical word is block. This is where we put in a stent or we do a bypass surgery. For this block, it is a pacemaker, electrical block. This is less common. Here again, there is hardly much can be done by us, and the incidence is less common. Whereas this is the area a lot of stuff can be done. We need to concentrate on. So now, what is the role of and I'll be very happy to periodically interrupt it, so that any of you can ask questions, and I can address as and when necessary, or you can if you want to direct the direction of the talk or any specific queries, you can just share it in the chat box so that I can touch it upon. Now, one of the common misconceptions about the heart attack, why we need to do a lot of prevention, or why God has given so much in our hands to prevent a heart attack than in the hands of doctors, is that because the blocks that can be, or 80% of the blocks cannot be managed by stents or bypass surgery. I'll just show one more slide to make you one large study that showed that 60% of the heart attacks are from blocks which are less than 30%, which are not even seen in angiogram. So that is why sometimes people say angiogram is normal, the next day he developed a heart attack and died. And 16% of the blocks are less than 50% block. 30 to 50, we generally don't do anything. No bypass surgery helps, no angioplasty helps, only lifestyle modification and risk factor modification helps. Only in this area, it really helps. So if we identify these angiogram and do a treadmill and find out all these things, we are really going to do very small portion of managing the heart disease. Now, what we tend to believe, it's a small video, it may take about a minute. Please have a look at this video. Oh, I'm sorry, again. It goes back. So as you can see, this was what we originally believed. A 20% block can become a 30% one. And then over a period of time, it becomes a 40% one, then 50 and 60. And then finally, it suddenly becomes a 100% block. This is the traditional concept. So, and we thought this was the heart attack, but unfortunately, only 5 to 10% of the heart attacks are due to blocks developing like this. So then, what is the new concept, or what is the new reason how heart attacks develop, or what is the genesis of the heart attack? If you look at this video, as you can see here, we bring in a concept called vulnerable block. There are two types of blocks in the heart. One is called a stable block, or a block technically, and other one is called a vulnerable block. I'll just show that with another diagram. As you can see, now on this side, this is called a stable block. And this side, you can just temporarily forget this image. This is called the vulnerable block. So this has about 50% narrowing, and this person has about 20-30% narrowing. You can just temporarily ignore this image, this portion of the image. As you can see, every block has a covering. Now this cap or covering is very thick, whereas you can see this cap is very thin, very thin. And this block has less fatty material, This block is lot of fatty material. So this is less likely to rupture or break, whereas here you can see the small portion is ready to rupture and break. So normally these endothelial surfaces have negative charge and the RBCs have negative charge, so they repel each other. But when this portion gets ruptured, the blood cells start getting attracted, they come and build up here, suddenly a block develops, and that becomes a 100% block. And that is the reason why heart disease develops. So the blood that is flowing like this here suddenly comes and joins this place and produces a 100% block. So now, I hope you understand that now just by doing an angiogram and finding out there are no blocks, we cannot be satisfied. We really have to find out why that small portion or the thin cap ruptures and how to prevent a rupture. Now, these ruptures take place because of some molecular imbalances. Some this fibrous tissue. There are some molecules that lies the fibrous tissue that make it very thin. There are some stuff that can add fat, more fat into these blocks. As a result, they become very easy for rupture. Now, what are these mechanisms that can trigger this rupture of the block? So, our emotions, our activities, our sleep, all these stuff can produce a rupture of this block. So, if you really want to prevent a block rupture, we are really doing a great work in preventing a heart disease. So, our aim should be one, to prevent a block rupture. Number two is to convert an unstable block or a vulnerable block into a stable block. So, are we a vulnerable patient? Are we somebody who is likely to get a heart disease? How do we identify? We need to analyze ourselves. So, there are good healthy habits, there are risk factors that we can identify and modify them appropriately so that we can reduce our risk of getting heart disease. To simply, rather, even before risk stratifying, certain things that God has really given in our hands, if we follow that, the incidence of heart disease can come down by 90% of the society, and this portion does not need the presence of a doctor at all. So I'll pool them for convenience sake into 3 E's: eating habits, exercise habits, and emotional habits. Our eating habits, our exercise habits, and emotional habits. These 3 E's. If you take good control of these 3 E's, we can definitely prevent a heart disease from developing. So, what are these 3 E's? We'll come to eating part of it. Now, what is the first sin of mankind? What is the first temptation that Jesus faced? What is the toughest temptation that most of us face? Is eating. So Adam and Eve, they wanted to eat the apple. Jesus was asked to make bread and eat. And we would like to eat whatever our eyes see. So it is very important that what we put inside our body is good. Now, it has to be a balanced, a healthy food. It is not just what we put in, it is how we put in and how frequently we put in is extremely important. So, to simply say, in the eating principles, number one, it's timely meals. Taking the meals in time is very important. There are some studies very recently about this intermittent fasting, but the recent analysis of it has shown that all these studies are very small and with potential bias, but there are positive results, but the long-term results are not known. So as of now, I will not advocate anybody intermittent fasting. I will advocate timely meals, avoid fasting, and avoid feasting. So both to be avoided. And how do we time our meals? The breakfast preferably is within 1 hour from the time we get up. 1 to 1.5 hours we have to finish our breakfast. And about 4 to 5 hours from the breakfast time, we need to have our lunch. And another 5 to 6 hours time, we need to have our dinner. And how do we split the calories or the quantum of the food that we take? People say that, eat like a king in the morning and like a middle class man in the afternoon and like a beggar in the night. So the largest portion of the food has to be in the morning. But unfortunately, many of us, those who work very hard, they come back and then just eat a heavy dinner and then go to bed immediately. The dinner has to be at least 3 hours before going to bed. So it has to be given, the dinner has to be given enough time to be digested by little activities before going to bed. So about 40 to 50% of the total food intake can be in the morning. About 25 to 30% can be in the afternoon. And after 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., only 20% of the total calorie intake has to go. This is about the timing of the meal that we take. So the first principle is no fasting, no feasting. The second thing is optimal time. And the third thing is what we take in. Now, if you look at the traditional timing, people now talk about keto diet and people talk about, all non-vegetarian diet, or people talk about carbohydrate diet. So what has been traditionally recommended for so many years still holds good. The quantum of carbohydrate in our body has to be around, in our diet has to be around 55 to 60%, not exceeding 60%. If you look at our traditional Indian diet, particularly South Indian diet, it is 90% carbohydrate. Idli is 95% carbohydrate, dosa is 95% carbohydrate, rice is 100% carbohydrate, chapati is almost 95 to 100% carbohydrate. So we have to make sure that we include proteins in the diet. About 25 to 30% of our diet has to be proteins. It can be vegetable proteins or animal proteins as you like. So vegetable proteins, what are the protein rich vegetables? Those stuff has to be taken care of. And non-vegetarian proteins, you can have egg, you can have, what do you call that, fish, you can have chicken. But if you want to take meat, a lean meat is better than red meat. So a red meat will be beef and lamb will be red meat. So somebody has asked a question, maybe I'll address that little later, maybe towards the end. And that is our specific question. I'll address that little later. So this is about the type of proteins that we can take. We also need fat. So fat will be about 15 to 20%. So that is one aspect of it. Then the second thing is the quantity of the food that we take. The quantity of the food is very important in terms of our body shape maintenance and weight maintenance. We need to make sure that we maintain the appropriate body weight. I have a very simple mantra of maintaining the weight or increasing the weight or decreasing the weight. It only calls for a strict discipline. Now, if we go to dietitians, I refer to dietitians too. They often give this much, this will contain this calories, this will contain this calories. You take 1,500 calories per day, you take 1,600 calories per day. But this counting stuff will become very, very difficult practically for a person like me. And I assume that many people are like that. So what I tell my patients is, whatever you are taking, you write down for a day, for a week, Sunday to Saturday. Next Saturday, every single thing other than water. And again, they say, will a coffee increase weight? Will a banana increase weight? They'll ask all kind of questions. The simple answer is anything other than water will increase weight. Only water does not have calories. All other stuff, you name anything, they can increase the weight because they contain calories. So you write down everything that you take. At the end of 1 week, you look back and see, is there something that you've taken for the social obligation? Is there something you've taken for your tongue? Is something you've taken for your eye? remove all those stuff. And make sure that you're not missing a meal. Then reduce the stuff by 10%. Whatever you are taking, you reduce by 10% consistently. The average weight loss is about 1 kg per month and 12 kg in 1 year. If somebody is 90 kilos and their optimal weight is 70 kilos, I give them 2 years to achieve this target. But only thing is this 10% decrease to be maintained consistently. If you work hard for 15 days and let loose on the 16th day, all the effect of the 15 days is gone. So this is the eating part of it. And the eating part of it, I will also include smoking because it also goes there. I'm sure most of us will not be smoking. We are not first-hand smokers, but make sure that we avoid the second-hand smoking too. We should not encourage anyone to smoke in our presence, either in our family, in your office, or a neighborhood, or apartment. Second-hand smoking is very harmful. More and more studies are proven. Now the recent concept is a third-hand smoke. The smoke or the bud that somebody had dropped in, that is there lying down. If you go there, even that smoke that emanates from the cigarette butt that is lying down, that is harmful. That effects also have been identified. So it's very important that we don't smoke, we don't expose ourselves to second-hand smoke and third-hand smoke, and we encourage everybody who smokes not to stop smoking. That is one of the biggest widow maker that I have seen. Most of the heart attack patients that I see are these, in the government hospital, particularly my Madras Medical College practice, are much younger people. They don't have diabetes, they don't have hypertension, they don't have cholesterol, but the biggest risk factor will be smoking. And I see young widows crying and fatherless children. So it is very, very important that, we as a society, as believers in Christ, make sure that we honor this body and we encourage others to honor the body by stopping smoking. About alcohol, all the study, we are not doing a discussion on alcohol in detail here, but I'll tell you that of all the studies that have analyzed, there is no evidence that taking alcohol is good for health. I have done this in a debate in our cardiology society also, that there is no evidence that, at least in India, taking or in temperate climates, taking little amount of alcohol is good for health. No, not at all. In fact, very recently, a couple of months back, there was a study that came that even a smaller amount of even one drink of alcohol can affect the heart rhythms. So alcohol, my simple advice will be, you can take it away. Even whatever little quantity, you can take that away. So that is about the eating part of it. And the second E that I come to you is exercise. How safe is a digital BP kit? Digital BP kit is very safe. Somebody had asked. A digital BP kit is very safe, and WHO has presently recommended the digital BP kit to be routinely used rather than the regular sphygmometer mercury manometers. The reason being, one, mercury is an environmental toxin, and the second thing is the error that we find is very high in terms of sphygmomanometer, mercury BP machine recording. So you can definitely use a digital manometer. But what I prefer to my patients is I ask them to bring the digital BP machine, and in my room, in my presence, I check the digital BP and calibrate it against the mercury BP. Then I trust the digital BP machine for 1 year, 6 months to 1 year. So I recommend them to bring it every 1 year and calibrate it against the mercury apparatus. Then I believe that more than the BP recorded as patients say about the nurses and all that. So digital BP, please calibrate it and you can use it. It is safe. It is not an issue at all. Now, coming back to the topic that we are in, exercise. Moderate amount of exercise is extremely helpful. About 30 to 40 minutes of physical activity, about 5 to 6 days a week is extremely helpful. Any kind of physical activity that is comfortable for us, we should be involving in it. It's a cycling, a simple brisk walking is the most helpful thing. You don't even have to jog, but jogging is not harmful, but fast jogging could be harmful in somebody who's not used to it. If somebody wants to jog, let them jog, but make sure that you are used to it and you are using the appropriate shoes for it and jogging in the appropriate place. Make sure that you are not jogging in hard areas without the appropriate footwear. That is very important. You can play games, keep yourself active. If you don't find time for walking, park your car or bike quite away from your office and then just walk back to the office. Or if you have to climb 2 stairs, you climb 2 stairs. Instead of calling somebody or messaging somebody, you walk to their table. So increase your physical activity. And the step count of 10,000 steps per day is quite helpful. So whenever possible, find ways to increase the physical activity. If you have some orthopedic limitations of your knee or anything, you can use a hand bicycle or hand exercises. You can do swimming. Swimming is a very good exercise for somebody who's obese and finding difficult to walk. They can do swimming because your pain of the knees all will go away, particularly when you, what do you call that, do the swimming. Now, one more stuff that I'm going to add to you in the second E. We talked about the first E is eating, and the second E is the exercise part of it. And the third E is the second E, instead of continuing exercise, I talked about activity. Then our weight, I'm talking about it, weight is decided by our exercise and our more than exercise. Say if somebody wants to reduce weight, 95% is by diet. You don't reduce your weight just by exercise. Exercise plays a 5 to 10% role predominantly in maintaining the weight, but in losing weight, it is predominantly the diet part of it. Make sure you find the appropriate weight and maintain it. And the shape of, where we carry the weight is also very important. Weight in the tummy is extremely harmful. So do the appropriate tummy exercises also. If you're doing tummy exercises, make sure you do the back exercises also, because without back exercises, doing tummy exercises will lead you to back pain. So you have to do the core exercises, strengthen both the front and back of the core, and that helps. So the weight should be appropriate. The shape of the body should be appropriate, exercise. And snoring is another important harmful effect of the heart disease. What we have found is snoring is very, very harmful for cardiac health. It increases the pressure in the lungs. It can develop, patients can develop heart attack and heart failure. So how do we reduce snoring? One of the important ways of reducing snoring is optimizing the body weight. If we optimize the body weight, snoring comes down. And the second important method is doing simple breathing exercise. Take a fully expand your lungs and fully empty your lungs. Deep inspiration and deep exhalation. Do this about 10 times every hour you are awake. Every hour, 10 to 15 times. It takes about 1 minute to do 10 times. So spend 1 minute for breathing. Normally when we breathe we use only about 50% of the lung capacity. So we just relax and do a very shallow breathing. If you do a deep breathing, you find that the entire part of the chest expands. All the peripheral alveoli of the lung expands. And this also increases the tone of the palatal muscles, the tone of the throat muscles. And that is where these tone, when the tone is not good, they just oscillate and they produce a snoring. So when you do this breathing exercises and optimize the weight, your snoring comes down. And the last part of it and the most important part of the exercise, the second D, is sleep. Now, when to sleep, how much time to sleep? Previously, we did not have data. Now we have enough and more data to show that sleeping 7 to 8 hours per day is the best. Sleeping less than 7 hours or more than 8 hours is not good. So make sure that you have good time for sleep. And a good exercise encourages us to sleep. So if we practice this early, so going to bed early at say 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you get 7 hours of sleep. 5 o'clock, you get up and pray and start doing exercises. So 10 to 5. Watching the television after 10 o'clock, sitting on the cell phones, and avoid using these gadgets after 9 o'clock. Try to bring this as a discipline. That will be very, very helpful for you. And beyond that, beyond exercise and stopping all the gadgets and trying to go to bed at 10 o'clock, and if you don't get to bed, get sleep, remember Psalms 4:8. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone make me dwell in safety. There is one promise. And then in Psalms 127:2, you can claim that promise. In vain you shall rise early and stay late, because He gives sleep to his beloved, and you are his beloved, I am his beloved. So we can claim this 127:2 and ask God to give us good sleep. And the other verse that you can use is Proverbs 3:24. When you lie down, you'll not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Now, beyond that, if you suddenly wake up in the middle of and you are not able to sleep, just start praying. Maybe he wants you to pray for somebody. So look at that and start working on that. 127:2, Psalm 4:8, and Proverbs 3:24. You can look at that. So I have talked about these E's. Now, the third E I'm talking about is emotions. Because as I said, a man is an expression of his emotions. Our emotions, are extremely important in managing this. Remember, if I told you the block rupture, the thin cap in the covering of the block that ruptures and produces a heart attack. If you want the thin cap not to rupture, take the gift of the Holy Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. Write them down and claim that. See, my personal belief is, but I would like to give a disclaimer here because advising you on all these things. Please do not imagine that I am following all these things. But you can definitely believe that I would like to follow all these things and try my level best to follow all these things, but still I fail. So, but remember that I'm telling you because I know that this is good for you and me. Our emotions is extremely important in taking care of our. In fact, studies have shown that. Now, there is what shall I say? There was one study where patients who developed heart attack, how they recovered. They compared those people who had a good relationship with their parents, good relationship with their spouses, with those who had a broken relationship with their parents or a broken relationship with their spouses. And they found that those who had a good relationship with their parents, good relationship with their spouses, they recovered much better, and with the less weakness of the heart, they had a better long-term outcome. So it is not just theory, it is practice. Time and again, it has been proven that these emotions are very helpful. And in fact, unforgiveness is something that, again, that really very harmful for us to hold in our heart. This bitterness, this unforgiveness, all these things, whatever it is, adds to this converting a stable to an unstable block, or converting a stable block to a vulnerable block. So it is very, very important that we make sure that we fill our heart with love, joy, and peace, and we get the hostility, jealousy, loss of self-worth. I think if we are a good disciple Christian, we can never have hopelessness. If we get hopelessness, we really need to again come back and ask God to give us hope, because our hope is centered on Jesus Christ. But it is not that we cannot. But what I'll tell you is, we as doctors, we ask them to measure the LDL, we ask them to measure the HDL, we ask them to measure the blood pressure, we ask them to measure the sugar. Now, this is not wrong. This is right, because we count them. But it is very important for us to understand that what Albert Einstein said: not everything that counts can be counted. Now, what we doctors measure are countable things. What we can't measure, what you can't measure, but you can fill with your heart, is the uncountable things. This love, how can you count love? How can you count peace? How can you count joy? How can you count patience? How can you count worry? How can you count mistrust? How can you count anger, bitterness, unforgiveness, isolation, lack of social support, depression, hopelessness, lack of self-worth, rudeness, jealousy? All these things are going to be harmful to you. So we as believers in Christ, if we ask God, I became a believer after I became a cardiologist. So God trained me to take care of the hearts of the world. But then soon He showed me that before I take care of the hearts of the world, He needs to mend my heart. So then I understood and accepted Him. So He showed me that the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. So it is very, very important that we surrender our will to Christ and allow Him to fill our hearts with these wonderful gifts of Holy Spirit, so that you know we don't get a heart attack. In fact, I always believe that if we can do a study that somebody, a well discipled, well joyful, well happy Christian, and those who are not discipled or non Christians are compared and followed up over a period of time for developing heart attack and heart disease, believer will do very well. But the problem is, many of us are half-baked believers and half-baked practitioners of what Jesus talks about. So we still harbor all these kind of stuffs. So discipling in Christ is a good way of preventing a heart attack. So I am not talking this as a believer, I am talking this as a cardiologist. And how to reduce LDL naturally was one of the questions that comes. Now, LDL naturally to reduce, you can avoid this red meat. You can avoid oily and fatty food. You can increase physical activity by walking and all that. This can help. But there are certain levels of LDL. When it is very high, they will have to take medicines. Now, there are some patients, see, since the question naturally came, I assume that the person who asked did not want to take medications. Now we often give this medicine statins. Statins are not given for cholesterol reduction. It is given for risk reduction. We have to understand that. Somebody with a heart disease, a heart attack, we load them with high dose of statins. We even target an LDL as low as 70 or 60. But we may not be giving statins to somebody without any risk factors who have an LDL of 110. But if the same heart disease patient has a statin LDL of 90, we may still give statins. So please do not compare yourself with somebody else. Just like God created all of us unique, right? I am not supposed to compare myself with some XYZ. The same way, I'm not supposed to compare my LDL with XYZ also. So you find the right kind of doctor. The doctor says that you don't need any medicines, you don't take medicines. And I think a couple of questions are there. How many years a stent will last? Now, stent is a metal structure that is put inside. Before that, let me just get a clarification on the host. Dear host, when do I close and when do I address the questions? What am I supposed to do? Kindly advise me.
Doctor, I think we can go on for another 15 to 20 minutes and we can take
Okay.
questions now. Yeah.
Okay. So I can take questions now for next 15 minutes. I'll be, whatever questions are there in the box, I'll try to address them. And if somebody wants to speak, maybe you are okay. But probably chat box will be a better way of doing it. Now, how many years will a stent last? What does it mean by last? Most of the stents that we use nowadays are metal stents, not degradable stents. We had biodegradable stents for some time, which was supposed to disappear after 3 years. That came in a big way in 2015-16, but in 18 it went away because the results were not great. So we are not talking about biodegradable stents. We are talking about metal stents. The metal stents are going to be there till we live. And even after we die, for body degenerates, the metal will still be there. But then what the person means probably is, how long will the stent retain its function to allow flow of blood through it? I think if that is the question the person asks, I'll address it this way. If a well-deployed, good quality stent, about 92% of the time it will remain open in the first 6 months to 1 year. And if it remains open the first 6 months to 1 year, it will continue to remain open for life most of the time. And about 0.5% of the time, it can suddenly get blocked off. We can call it a stent thrombosis. In about 8% to 10%, it can get narrowed down. We call it restenosis. That is in the 6 to 12 months time. And I had an angioplasty, 3 stents placed 6 years back. Our cardiologist advised blood thinner drops, exit Brilinta twice a day. At present, prescribe blood thinners. Another doctor advised me to blood thinners. And now, these kind of specific questions, it'd be very difficult to address without going through all the records. So I will not be able to address this question without knowing, you got the point, right? If you want to advise somebody, counsel somebody, or to sit with them and go and listen everything. So this I may not be able to address, but what I will suggest is you find a cardiologist who has the time for you to go through all your records and read through that and address your question patiently. And any other questions? I am 49 taking tablets for BP. It is in control. I do skipping. Skipping the tablets or skipping no, if you are doing skipping the physical exercise, please continue. You can do skipping, particularly when the BP is controlled. But if you are skipping the tablets, please do not skip the tablets, because if the BP is well controlled, it means that your BP medicines are necessary. Now, if your BP is on the lower side of normal, say less than 120/80, check with your doctor. Doctor, can I reduce the tablets? Your doctor is naturally going to automatically reduce the tablet, particularly if the BP is coming down. Can CT angiography be done instead of an angiogram? Now, let us understand that angiogram contains radiation risk, whether regular angiogram or CT angiogram. So please never do CT angiogram in the master health checkup. Do not accept any CT angiogram in the master health checkup packages. So I am not for it. Why unnecessarily radiate somebody in the master health checkup? Though the newer digital CT machines have lesser radiation, unless the doctor decides that you need an angiogram, please do not do it. Angiography is not going to be life-saving in many. CT angiogram is not going to be life-saving in many. Now, certain situations we use CT angiogram, and certain situations we use the conventional invasive angiogram. Say, for example, in a post-bypass surgery graft assessment, I think it will be more of a medical question than a public question, because if general practitioners ask us when should we advise CT angiogram, when should we advise, I'll be talking to them differently. But then to you, CT angiogram can be done. It varies according to the situations. Like, so for example, certain jobs, say if a pilot comes to me and says that, doctor, I have some vague chest pain. Now, 99% I believe that it is not from the heart. 99%. Now, if somebody else comes to me, if another doctor comes to me, a school teacher comes to me, I say that you go for regular walking, 30 to 40 minutes brisk walking. If you have no complaints when you're walking, and you have only some vague pains when you're not walking, when you're sleeping, when you're doing nothing, it is only from your muscle or from your stomach or from your mind and not from the heart. But I cannot tell this to pilot, because he is carrying the life of so many people. So I may be more liberal in advising a CT angiogram in such a patient. So, but I think this question will be more suited for a medical group than a general public. Is it mandatory to sleep for 7 hours? We have plenty of work to do. Can we sleep for 5 to 6 hours approximately? Now, so the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So what is the first thing, he gives? He gives rest. Am I right? Rest is first and then the work. Am I right?
Yes.
He makes me lie down in green pastures. Then he gives food. He leads me beside quiet waters. Then he leads me along the path of righteousness for his name's sake. So rest is a spiritual thing. Sleep is a spiritual thing. The spiritual discipline is rest, spiritual discipline is sleep. So please make sure that you sleep well, you take good rest well. You remember Jesus took rest. He took his disciples for a rest. come, they the whole day they were, Exodus, I think Lord says, my presence shall go with thee and I will give you rest. Come to me, all of you weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and learn from me. I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest. Jesus modeled a perfect balance between activity and rest. He was able to sleep nicely in the bow of a ship when it was in the storm. So make sure that you sleep well, you do your spiritual discipline well. And even like if you come, there was one pastor, who was on Tuesday, the woman went and knocked the pastor's door. Pastor, I've been trying to call you, wouldn't pick up, and I've been having a major trouble. I want to discuss with you. No, today is my weekly off. That is why I didn't pick up your call, the pastor said. Then the lady said, Pastor, do you know that Satan doesn't take weekly off? And then the pastor said, dear lady, I understand that, but if I don't take weekly off, I'll become like him. So, so, so that is why God wants us to take the off. God wants us to take the rest. So please make sure that you take the necessary rest. So I am comfortable with 4 to 5 hours of sleep. I study a lot, refer to many books. Well, all of us have works to do. I have a lot of works to do. In fact, yesterday night I had to upload a presentation to the European Society of Cardiology in the late-breaking science. I had to sit and work till 1 o'clock. I am planning to sleep a little early today to compensate for that late night. So at least if you had some day you didn't sleep, well, at least compensate on the other day. Make sure that you sleep. Somebody had said, I have to read a lot. I will tell you, in 2018, if you just Google, you go to PubMed. PubMed is a medical literature search site where you can search sleep duration, intellectual activity. You will get a wonderful study. And they have shown that those who sleep less than 7 hours, in 5 years, their intellectual activity comes down. So if you are somebody reading books, you are an intellectual person. So please make sure that you sleep well so that you retain your intellectual activity. Or you may think that you are retaining it. Probably if you slept well, your intellectual activity will be still more better. Age, I'm alive after 11 cardiac arrests. I'm on vitamins and cardiac medicines. Praise God for that. Young age, 30 to 35, taking medicines for blood pressure is good. Now, taking medicines for blood pressure is unrelated to the age. Whether young or old, when your BP demands you take the blood pressure, you need to take the blood pressure. Now we come across patients, who smoke, you take alcohol and come and say the BP of 180 by 110. We give a medicine, they ask me, doctor, will it have any side effects? Fellow, you were just drinking alcohol and smoking and now I am giving you a good medicine. Will it have side effects? So let us please understand that when medication is necessary, let us take the medicines. That is very, very important. There was one question, it's a direct question. And is it possible to increase the EF in the third stage of heart failure? Now for others, we talked about EF is ejection fraction. Now we talked about the heart initially. If you remember, there is a right ventricle and the left ventricle, the two pumping chambers, they're made of muscle. If the muscle loses its function or reduces its pumping capacity, what will really happen is it will start failing. We call that as a heart failure. So the ejection fraction, that means the amount of blood that is collected on the heart that could be pumped out in one time in the heart beats, is called ejection fraction. So if 100 ml of blood comes and the heart beats, only 35 ml goes out, and the ejection fraction is 35. So it is a very specific question. Somebody is going through heart failure. The main target of management is not ejection fraction. Please understand that anybody who is going through heart failure, the first target is reducing heart failure hospitalizations. The second target is to reduce mortality or improve survival. These two are the main targets that we as doctors work with. Now, ejection fraction is something that numbers, even say today somebody will be the same person having the echocardiogram and the same machine by the same medical personnel can have two different values done 1 hour apart. There could, so adanaala, so between yesterday, last year it was 32, this year it was 35, and the next year it has become to 32 again. Doctor, I am very upset. Don't look at these small numbers. It is possible some medications and some lifestyle can increase your ejection fraction, but do not worry about the absolute numbers. Follow the lifestyle modifications. It is very, very important you follow the lifestyle advice, particularly about the water and salt given to you by a doctor. Mild aortic sclerosis, what should I do next? I showed you one of the valves called aortic valve. Aortic sclerosis is thickening of the valve as the age advances. What to do next is nothing, enjoy your life. You don't need to do anything. Mild aortic stenosis does not harm you or give you any symptoms. Maybe just once in a year go and visit your doctor, and maybe once in 2 years have an echocardiogram, or maybe if you want once in a year do echocardiogram.
Doctor,
So
yeah, there are two more questions. But is it possible for people to consult you directly, and would you be okay to give them some contact?
See, during the COVID pandemic, I had a lot of free time, so I was able to do online consultations by Zoom platform. But now, there are some people who do ask, but then, they keep on persisting. In a week's time, I probably can see one or two patients by Zoom. So you can share my number to those who want. You can ask them to send a message, and then
Okay,
keep on reminding me because I tend to forget. And
sure.
so I don't mind somebody who's not able to meet me at a distance, other countries. I mean, I have done consultations occasionally now, but during COVID season I was doing a lot, but now the work has increased, so it's find little difficult to manage, but I still can do up to 2 consultations per week, so
Okay,
they
Doctor.
can
Thank you for
tie up
that.
with me.
Okay.
Mm. Is it I was now how, another 5 minutes we have or 10 minutes we have? five
We
minutes
can
you
do up
8:15 you
to,
said, right?
yeah, actually we can do up to 8:30. If people have questions, but if these are the only questions, then we can finish with this, Doctor.
You can also
Okay.
put your number if they can consult you there in the chat box. That's
Okay,
what.
okay. So what, 1 minute, is it possible to reduce weight by walking? See, if reducing weight by walking, somebody has put a personal message. I think, Cordially, there are a couple of direct questions to me,
Oh,
not in
okay.
the chat box. So
Actually, there are three questions here.
can you
So,
read them all?
okay. So I have isolated hypertension, diastolic
Okay,
is around
okay.
70,
Oh, okay,
systolic
okay.
140. Yeah. How to manage?
Isolated systolic, diastolic around 70 and systolic around 140. And now when 140 and 150, if you can definitely try. I mean, a lot of other things that we need to look into. It is not just one value. It is, are you a diabetic? Or how is your kidney function? How is your heart pumping function? How is the muscle thickening? Are there any target organ damage related to your hypertension, like your eyes? Are there any effects in the eyes? All these things we look into before prescribing a therapy. Supposing we evaluate you and we find that there are no target organ damage, there is no evidence of hypertension in the eye, there is no evidence of hypertension in the kidney, we may not give you any medications. We may say that, try lifestyle, go for walking, salt reduction, relax your mind, then come back and we see the BP may come down. If it does not, well, we may have to give you medicines. But it is a very general statement. I think this questions have to be addressed specifically to the individual patients. Do garlic keeps cholesterol in control? Well, there are some evidences, but garlic is not harmful. If you want to take garlic, you can take garlic, but there are no large-scale studies to allow us to prescribe garlic for cholesterol control. But if you do like garlic, and definitely it is not harmful, you can try. A couple of my patients have said that taking garlic helps them, but then one swallow does not make a summer. We can't really prescribe based on small evidences. I was prescribed medicines for a few days, and what would you advise, doctor? What is that? Okay. I was prescribed with medicines for a few days, but did not continue it. Somebody has put, please take medicines. Do not stop on your own. Check with your doctor. If you're
Um,
not happy with your doctor, please take a second opinion. No, at all. No hesitation at all. I tell all my patients also. If you buy a car, you go to 3, 4 showrooms and buy a car. So now you're taking care of your body. major decisions, don't hesitate. You were about to tell me something, Cordelia?
Yes, doctor. There's this question about thiocardial on-frizz test. When should one go for that test?
What is that?
Thio, thiocardial on-frizz test. Let me put that again.
I don't know that. Thiocardial on-frizz.
Yeah,
I don't know that. I don't prescribe that, and in fact, we don't use this in our routine practice. Maybe Premalata, I do. If we can just give, I don't know that. That's all. We don't use it routinely.
Okay, so
And
there's another last question. Maybe we can take this and then finish the session. Nowadays, some hospitals are giving loading dose for heart attack. How far it supports?
see, the heart attack, as I told you, it's a plaque rupture. So the plaque rupture, there's a lot of platelets coming there and working. So if you have a suspicion of a heart attack, the one thing that we can do is loading dose. There is loading dose of two blood thinners, aspirin and clopidogrel, and a loading dose and statins. These three medicines together are the loading dose. So when we add these stuff, it can help. There is no evidence by, what shall I say, literature, comparative studies, without loading dose and with loading dose. That's how generally we do studies and collect evidence, but we don't have studies. But we have physiological basis for giving it, so we do give it. And but definitely, in every situation where angioplasty is done, we give loading dose, and there is a lot of evidence for that. So loading dose for a suspected heart attack, it is always good to take. Nothing wrong in it. Please take it if your doctor advises.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. I think we can close this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I hope it was very informative for you. If you have more persisting questions, maybe you can write to Deborah Rice Movement, and then we will see whether we can get Dr. Justin's consultation again on these things. Okay, so thank you very much, and have a good weekend, and have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for the time.